Hey, all right, it's Drewz Viewz over here. I'm getting on ready to head out to a Halloween party in a little bit, so I got my costume on. Um, but I realize I need to still do my season two, the Verse Steven Universe podcast. So I figured to quote Bill O'Reilly, "Fuck it, we'll do it live." Bill O'Reilly. Uh, so I'm just gonna go over my thoughts on season two here. Initially, I said I was going to include my reaction to season two, the final episode, episode 26, with this video, but I have that reaction done. And since I'm doing this live one, just going to put that on a separate video, I guess, because then I think about it, it has to be over on Daily Motion anywhere. It's going to get blocked. Even my last podcast episode on season one was getting blocked and removed, so maybe it's just better this way. Hi, Jeffrey emojis. Good to see you. All right, we got two people watching. I assume Jeffrey emojis and someone else. So good. I'm going to talk for maybe 45 minutes here or so, or however long, and see if some other people join us. If you have any questions for me on my thoughts on Steven Universe season two or in general, please feel free to drop them in there, and I can talk about whatever. Overall, on the season, I enjoyed it a lot. It was a lot shorter than season one. I believe all the following seasons are only around 25 or 26 episodes, like this one, whereas season one was really long. So there's a little more to talk about with that. But at the same time, season two definitely ramped things up in one direction. Um, Basically taking most of the same themes from the first season and you know just doing even more with it, I would say. And overall, we got a lot more of the plot line with Homeworld, where the gems are from, the crystal gems are from. So a lot of the questions I had based around season one were actually answered this time, but there's still a lot of things we don't know, or I don't know. You probably do, having seen the whole show up to this point. Hi, Dark Four Anderson. Good to see you. And maybe someone can tell me also, without spoiling anything, obviously. Well, I don't know how this would be a spoiler, I guess, but someone could tell me if there are more seasons past five, or is season six airing now? I'm not sure. Or if the creators of this show have said anything about how long the show is going to run for and everything like that. From anything I'd heard, it's not canceled, or not canceled, but it's not uh, over it over yet. Dark for Anderson, just watch fast. All right. Does that mean I just need to watch the show more fast? Are you saying, or speed it up 2 times? I don't think that would make sense. Hi, Jay Gill. So anyway, for the season two, I actually went and copy pasted every description of all the episodes from season two, so I can read through them and remember exactly what happened and see how they dealt with all the themes and characters and plot lines and everything. Even before I look through this, I feel like there was a couple longer arcs to the season, so it definitely started off with the issue from the end of season one, where Steven realized he needs to have more responsibility, basically, which is the direction I thought it was going to go anyway. Like Steven's pretty carefree in season one, and he still has a lot of elements like that this season as well. But he, what happened with Peridot and the crew coming down to Earth made him realize, I guess, that he actually has like a great responsibility. Um, so that was definitely the first part of the season. There was the whole storyline with him not wanting to tell Connie and everything like that. Cool kids helping him out to blow off steam and all that. Actually, if I even look at the episode descriptions here, yeah, that was the first two. The first one was Steven tries to avoid Connie so he doesn't have to tell her about his ordeal with the Homeworld gems. And then episode two was the cool kids take Steven out on a late night joyride to lift his spirits and end up discovering Peridot's escape pod. That's right. So that was the start of the season. We had the whole storyline with Ronaldo that was coming in and out a little bit, keeping Beach City weird. I think I talked a lot about that, how he it's kind of funny that there actually is weird things. Unlike in I would say in real life, I don't really believe in conspiracy theories and stuff like that. A lot of people do, but there actually is like essentially somewhat of a conspiracy on Earth in this show with Homeworld coming in, and basically I guess the crystal gems are the gems from Homeworld creating a lot of things on Earth in the first place, and this is right in front of Ronaldo, but he still wants to. I don't know how he is toward the by the end of the season if he's accepting it more that it is, but based around Steven and the gems, but he seems to want to for the most part say it's other things that are happening, like a lot of conspiracy theorists do. They want to blame their problems on that or just things they can't understand in the world. Um, when is the new React? Well, I'm still going to. I have the episode 36. I'll just be posting that up probably tomorrow. But then it's going to continue on Tuesday. I do Car Tuesday, reacting to cartoons on Tuesday. A clever name I came up with. Also check out Anime Monday if you like anime. But uh, it's season 3, episode 1 and 2 will be up Tuesday, barring anything um, out of the ordinary here, like my computer going down or me getting so drunk at this Halloween party tonight that I'm out of commission for a few days. No, that won't happen. I can hang, but a lot of Peridot talk on the chat here. So that was another. Obviously, she started the season off, and then there was a huge arc with her toward the end of the season, and then the middle kind of arc, if I remember correctly, for the season was the whole issue with the team kind of coming apart with Pearl kind of breaking the code of fusion and all that. And then we learned a lot about fusion. So I would say the theme, I don't know if this is a theme. I guess this is more of a plot line where it brings out the different themes, but fusion in general, how it works, how people on Homeworld feel about it, all that stuff was huge in the season. I think that's definitely something that the writers are interested in, it seems like to me, getting themes out that way by talking about it. And it is an interesting idea overall. So we had learned last season about Ruby and Sapphire at the end, but we came to find this season was that she or Ruby and Sapphire or she Garnet living like that all the time is not a normal thing at all on Homeworld, and it's considered taboo, I guess. It was at least thousands of years ago when we got this flashback. I'm assuming it still is because, yeah, I guess it has to be because Peridot, if we're taking her word for what's normal on Homeworld or what's considered acceptable, she was weirded out by the Garnet thing. So it seems like that's still the general thought on Homeworld. And I'd said I think it's a fairly clear parallel to real world issues like same-sex marriage and everything like that, or even just beyond that, different couples that are not conventional, I guess. That seems like what the Garnet character and specifically the attitudes from Homeworld and all that, that seems to be what the writers are trying to get across there, I would imagine. And we learned from Peridot also about this was something I was talking about in the last couple Peridot episodes, but we're learning from her a lot of the attitudes from Homeworld, apparently, which is also that pearls are meant to kind of be. I don't know if I would go as far as to say slaves, but they're kind of like servants for not just I'm assuming not just the diamonds who are seem to be the top dogs there, the queens or whatever of Homeworld, but it seems like anyone can just get a pearl or whatever. So Dark Force says, "What about rose quartz?" Yeah, there's a lot of mother stuff this season too. I'm going to talk about that too. A lot of mommy issues from all the characters or most of them. But Pearl joining Rose Quartz, then we found out was an unusual thing because we have Pearl. Even the Pearl we met with Yellow Diamond at the end of the season there was being a servant essentially. So that's what they're supposed to be used for apparently. And in general we learned that I kind of thought this was the case anyway, but we learned that there's multiple pearls, multiple amethysts, I assume multiple paradots, we know there's multiple rubies. We saw that in the flashback, so there's a lot of things. So Robert Jorge Noves asking, what I think of the fusions and character interactions. I mean, I'm kind of talking about that already, I would say, Robert. Um, I think it's like I said, I think the fusion concept is pretty interesting, because well, at least how Peridot and some of the, I guess, conventional gems look at it is it's only used for to get a goal accomplished. Like I need to get taller to reach something on the shelf. Let me fuse, or etc. Or that's even what I believe that's why Pearl and Garnet were fusing in the first place in the episode where everything went down to pick something heavy up or whatever it was. Or maybe that was one of the different fusions. I don't remember, but obviously through the Garnet character, we see that it's more than that. Um, we see that it's like a love connection essentially. There's something I need to point out from my last reaction too. I'll get to in a second where I might have goofed up and spoiled myself on something, I guess, but I'll talk about that in a second. Um, but with the fusion, so obviously Garnet being the fusion all the time is their own thing. Ruby and Sapphire's thing, basically just a kind of conventional love relationship, I guess. Um, but we learned from the whole Pearl saga that she liked fusing to feel stronger. It seemed like, given that that's why she said she did it. Like she didn't want to feel weak. She wanted to feel strong, which I thought was kind of interesting in itself because maybe it makes more sense now learning about how pearls are supposed to be, I guess. But the Pearl, who's one of my favorite characters for sure, is she's normally the one seeming like she's in control and everything. So kind of going against the team doing this because she wanted to feel stronger or something like that was an interesting concept. That was probably one of my favorite episodes, I would say, of the season. Let me try to find the description on that one. Like I said, I have all the descriptions here that started off that whole arc. Yeah, so, okay. When TV broadcasts are disrupted by a video signal emitted by Peridot from the Gem communication tower, Garnet chooses to fuse with Pearl into Sardonyx to destroy it, which dismays Amethyst. Well, this is a long description. As the tower keeps being fixed, however, Steven and Amethyst are shocked to discover who's really behind it. Obviously, it's Pearl. That's what I'm talking about. And yeah, it seemed like that was going to be another Amethyst episode where she feels bad about herself for not being as good or whatever. And we learned from Peridot that's kind of is the case. She's like a small Amethyst or whatever, but then it ended up being actually more of a Pearl based episode. So yeah, but with getting back to fusion, so we learned that it seems like it's evolved through the gem culture. They were at first supposed to be only, also we learned in the flashback episode, only like other rubies or other of the same gems would fuse. But then they learned that I guess Ruby and Sapphire were the first known fusion of two disparate gems, and then now all the crystal gems are doing it. And I don't know if people, or gems rather, are on Homeworld are doing it. Someone mentioned the Jasper here, yeah, Dark 4. So we learned that not we learned, we saw in the end of season 1 that Jasper and I always really struggle saying this name here, Lapis Lazuli, I believe. Someone will probably tell me that's wrong, but they fused into, what was that? I saw the name on the things here too. They fused into Malachite, which Lapis basically tricked Jasper into doing it. But Jasper is like, hey, we'll try it. Why not? So what everyone's doing now, maybe I can win like that. Jasper is trying to do it for like beating her enemy in battle, essentially, which he considers her enemy. Backfired on her. They're under the sea right now. So that's definitely a hanging thread. I'm interested going into season 3. There's this whole cluster thing, which obviously that's still out there. I'm assuming the Malachite fusion will come back up fairly soon into season 3, hopefully, because I assume it's going to be instrumental in something to do with the story in general, and the getting rid of the cluster, whatever it is. Yeah, so I can definitely talk more about the fusions, but yeah, overall, it's an interesting idea because it's not just. I mean, the characters can take it different ways, and I didn't even get into the whole Connie Stevani one, which I guess is the official name for that, which is probably one of the strangest things on the show to me. That Steven confused with actual other humans. There's a flashback episode where Greg tried to do it with rose quartz. It didn't work. But of course, Greg is not any type of gem at all. So, um, before go on to the next point here, let's see if there's anything else for me to answer here. You are super hot. Yeah, I'm a Tabasco hot sauce. It's my costume. Makes sense. I assume that's all you mean. How do you classify Steven Universe given a review that the series? Um, sorry, Jeffrey, I don't really understand the question the way you phrased it. Or maybe you dropped a word out at the end there. How do I classify Steven Universe given the review that the series seems? Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean there. If you want to type the question in again. Jay Gill, good to see you. I could be wrong, but I think only people of certain status can obtain a pearl, like our version of nobility. That makes sense to me. All I was saying is that we learned in this most recent episode, or one of the most recent ones, about these diamonds. There's yellow diamond, blue diamond. I think there's two other ones at least because of that pad had like a whitish or clear diamond, and I believe a red diamond. So that might mean there's just four figureheads, but probably like in society, the richest people can get certain things, kings, queens, whatever. But down the line, so it's probably only a certain like a Paradat seemed obviously like she wouldn't be able to have a pearl, but probably a certain amount of people other than the top one I'm assuming are four main leaders probably can have one. But yeah, who knows? I don't. Maybe some of you do. And if any of you guys, like I mentioned it before, there was less people on. If anyone wants to fill me in on how long the series is supposed to be going, if that's a known thing, or when the next season's coming out, or if the show is completely over, which I don't think it is, but I don't know. Red diamond, clear diamond. Well, I don't know. It's probably white diamond. I mean, it looked. I definitely made note of it in my last reaction. That jumped out at me, that pad there. So I think it's definitely something. Like you said, each crystal gem reason to fuse, other than for strength, is definitely born out of some deep resentment or insecurity they have. That's I don't necessarily think that's true for Garnet's fusion. Like I said, that one seems to be like a love connection sort of thing. For Amethyst and Pearl, that definitely seemed to be the case. And even I guess Stevani, well, that happened in season one, but Connie, I guess, was insecure about dancing, I guess, was the kind of the thing, or I guess that just points to how insecure she was, at least at that point in general, about other people seeing her doing stuff. So yeah, I think that's a good point, Jay Gale. That seems, other than Garnet, the perma fusion, that's what they call it. That pretty much seems to be the case. Although I guess it's not really the case for the Jasper, the Amalekite either, because, like I said, that was for a direct purpose from Lapis' side. It was the purpose of tricking, joining, kind of, helping the crystal gems in Earth, and then from Jasper's side, the opposite. But excuse me, I don't know if that was insecurity necessarily. Joel Omar Flores Hernandez, did you notice the diamonds in the moon base? Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I was talking about with that. Unless if you're talking about something other than the pad with the four diamonds, I don't know. I might have missed something else. There was kind of a weird. I didn't really point it out in my reaction, I don't think, but there was a weird kind of scene that I didn't really know why I was in there, unless it's pointing. It's like foreshadowing of some kind. When they're in the moon base, ascending the stairs, where we found the pad and the chair, the Paradat's laughing at, sitting on, and all that stuff. There was like a brief scene where there was something in between on the stairs, and they're like, "What is that thing?" And Garnet or someone was like, "It's not important." Or Pearl, I think, said that it's not our mission. They continued, but it was some weird little cylinder thing, I think. So I have no idea why a little quick scene like that would be in there if it's not coming up in the future. So I don't know what that's about, but I'm assuming I'll find out eventually. Richard Powers coming in with the answers for me. Thank you, sir. It's the end of the 5th season right now, and it's still going strong. Okay. Meaning, I'm assuming that means that there's no, like, the creators of the show didn't say 6 seasons in a movie, or, they didn't cap it up at some point. So that's good. I'm interested to see how Steven grows more, not just in terms of his responsibility, but literally how he grows. We had this whole episode with his birthday. Evidently, he's 14 years old. Connie's 12. She was surprised. I say it's hard to always judge with animation, like I said on my reaction, but he definitely doesn't really look 14. Even up till this season, I wouldn't necessarily say he acts like that either. It's also kind of hard to tell. He doesn't go to school and all these other things. He's only half of a human. Like, even though he lives kind of the lifestyle of like an average boy, well, not average, but of a whatever beach city resident. There's so much other crazy stuff going on that I guess it would be kind of hard to gauge your how you're supposed to be behaving anyway. But I'm interested to see how, I guess, so it's up to season 5 now. Is it going to be like on the show now? Is he like 18, 19? I don't know. A show I reference a lot, Adventure Time, that I like, that just ended recently. That show had Finn, the main character, growing up the whole time. Even the voice actor, I think, of that show started out as a kid and then got older and older. So his voice changes and all that. I'm not sure if the person who does the voice of Steven is a kid or an adult doing a kid's voice. I think it's a man. Like, a lot of times on shows, women do the voices for on cartoons. Women do the voices of younger boys because their vocal quality. But I don't think that's the case with Steven Universe here. But one commenter recently made I think it was about the episode I'm talking about, where he was concerned about looking older for Connie and all that. I think that a commenter told me that the voice actor is the same voice actor, and he was just making his voice sound more like his real voice older. So it might not be the case that he's gonna be the actor's like growing up before our eyes type of thing. Let's see, where was I here? Oh, okay. Jeffrey Emojis is clarifying his question for me here. How you classify Steven Universe? Give us your opinion. Well, all right. You didn't make it too much more clear. I don't know if it might be a bit of a language barrier here. If you mean how do I classify it in terms of what kind of show it is, like what, like, I mean, I'm talking about the themes a little bit, and it's kind of hard to classify. Obviously, it's ostensibly, I would say, a kid show. I think a lot of the themes are targeted at an audience that's probably, I mean, it's on Cartoon Network also, which the target audience for that I think is like 8 to 13 maybe, or 14, I'm not sure. For this show, it seems like, even based on the people watching my channel, watching my reactions, it seems like you guys are, maybe I'm way off base here, but it seems like you're younger than me a little bit, and maybe started watching the show when it came out a few years ago, and you were like 13, 14, 15. Now, this is like what happened, I think, with Adventure Time too. People started watching it when they're a little bit younger, like in junior high or something, and then by the time the show ends, they're adults even, or whatever, kind of growing up with it. So I think the show's kind of pitched at like a 12 to 15-year-old audience. Maybe I could be way off on that. So it's a kid show, but it's also an adventure show, I guess. It's a comedy in a lot of points. Obviously, that's part of the reason I like it. A drama. I don't know. It is hard to classify if that's the question, which I'm not sure that it is. But I think that's a good thing, because shows that are super easy to classify, they're a lot of times they're not as interesting, or at least they don't give you the ability to talk like this and go through all the themes, and make you wonder about what's going to happen next, or like what the world can actually be, the world building and everything. So, the songs, did you like it? Is a question. I like a lot of the songs. Some of them I kind of glaze over on from time to time. Part of it is because I don't always want to include a lot of it in my reaction, because it'll get it blocked, even though I'm doing them on Daily Motion now anyway, so it's probably not an issue at this point if I'm going to continue like that. But some of the songs are good. I liked the song in one of the most recent ones I watched that Paradat started singing along in. Overall, it's not my favorite aspect of the show. I play a ukulele myself, though, so I like that. If you see in my intro on my videos now, the song, like the theme song, I think is really good. But maybe someone could refresh my memory on a specific song. Jay Gill says, If so, was there an episode that sort of kind of made you tear up? But a lot of qualifiers there. Um, and you have another comment too. I'll get to in a second. But episodes that made me tear. I mean, I would say, I don't know if like people like this my reactions for why they like them or not, or just because they like the show or want to hear what I have to say. I'm certainly not the type of reactor that's gonna be having like wild swings of emotion because this is not who I am really. I can be kind of robotic, I guess, in my emotions. So like it takes a lot. There's very few times where I watch a movie or TV show and like actually like start crying. Probably it's rarely happened to me. But stuff will make me get emotional, nevertheless. The stuff that speaks to me on the emotional level, and why I said Pearl is one of my favorite characters, it's partially because of this. I think a couple of episodes, maybe from season one and season two, where I felt more emotional. That it's with Pearl and her kind of past, I guess, and her feelings. Let me look. Let me jump back over to the list here. I think there is one. I think the episode where Connie wanted to learn sword fighting to protect Steven. So Pearl's teaching her, and then you find out like Pearl thinks Connie is supposed to be Steven's knight, and it's kind of based around how Pearl was acting with in conjunction with Rose Quartz. So, and then when you kind of get, and then Pearl kind of if I remember correctly, Pearl kind of comes to accept that uh, Connie's different than, or like things are different. That doesn't necessarily need to be the case. Steven doesn't just need to be protected, I think. Whatever it is, but she's like getting wistful about the past and all that. That's the type of stuff that was speaking to me, I guess, for whatever reason, on a more emotional level. I don't know if there's going to be anything on the show that actually makes me cry. Like I said before, just now, it doesn't happen often. So if you're holding out hope for that, you might be disappointed, but you never know. I mean, maybe something hits me a certain way, I'll get choked up. I don't know. And then Jago's disagreeing with me on something. Let's see. Uh, I have to disagree. There are plenty of adults who finding of what love is, understanding their feelings, etc. Well, I don't think I said that wasn't the case. I was just saying that if you classify this, it is partially a kid's show. Certainly, this show speaks to adults like myself, but I wouldn't be watching it otherwise. And the episodes that I don't like as much, I won't even get into the non-canon episode that I definitely wasn't a fan of. But some of the episodes that are pitched more directly toward younger audience, I think, where the themes are more simple or like they're kind of like the lesson episodes. Those are the ones I don't like as much. And there's plenty of episodes that are not the case. That like I agree with you, Jay Gill, that it speaks to people that, especially what love is. I mean, that's I think the more interesting things like that are, there's like the episode was called The Answer, right? The flashback, and it's like love is the answer. Like that's kind of a basic thing that could be more for a younger audience. But if you actually look at what's behind it, how interesting that this fusion between Ruby and Sapphire is. And again, like I mentioned on that episode, I still want a little more of their backstory before they met each other. But of the themes of not knowing if you should be in love with a certain person, or I guess I assume that like I already kind of talked about it a little bit. I feel like this show definitely speaks to people that it's not myself, but people that are not straight, I guess, or conventionally or straight or whatever, that might be in different relationships that their parents don't like or that society doesn't like as much, or there's issues like that. It seems like I kind of mentioned it already, but it seems like the Garnet fusion is speaking to that directly, which I think is a good message for kids as well. I think that's what the creators of the show are looking to do, get that type of message out. But again, of course, it can still speak to people and that are my age or older, even, or a little bit younger than me or whatever. Um, yeah, I don't know if I really answered that what you were saying directly, but I definitely don't. I definitely do agree that people of any age can enjoy the show. Certainly, and it can still teach them things, I guess. Humongous Bone, great name. I think you're gonna like season 4 a lot, so I'm not sure if that's referencing that there's gonna be more emotional stuff coming in there or what, but that could be. Parola is very emotional. Her voice actor knows how to pass on the feelings. I assume Parola is Pearl, maybe in Portuguese or something. I think um, Robert Jorge Novaes. Are you the one who told me that you're Brazilian? Maybe I've seen you commenting. Yeah, and that's something I haven't talked about much. But I did kind of get into it with Steven's voice actor, even though I don't really know much about him. But yeah, the voice actors for Pearl, that's probably part of it too. Like adding to her kind of wistful feelings about the past and all that type of thing. That's definitely a lot on the voice actor, in addition to the good writing and everything. So props to her for sure. Um, and since I was talking about the Ruby Sapphire thing, I alluded to this before, but on my recent reaction, I wanted to pull a quick screen cap for Ruby and Sapphire. So I made kind of a foolish error and went on to Google Images and grabbed one that evidently was a spoiler. I only looked at it real quick. I thought it was maybe a screenshot from the Answer episode because it has Ruby and Sapphire. Now looking back on it, I can kind of tell, I think, what's happening in the picture, which on one hand is a spoiler. I don't know if I want to get too, I mean, I'm assuming everyone on this watching this has watched the whole series. Um, if not, though, if you don't know what I'm talking about, yeah, it's this picture of. It seems like Ruby and Sapphire maybe is proposing to Sapphire or something. Now, I guess that's a spoiler for something down the line, but I don't know if that's a flashback. I mean, the future episode could be a flashback to something that's already happened. Even if it's not, I feel like the relationship, how I'm viewing it already, is like they're married in a way, like they're together all the time. So, but regardless, I made a mistake in trying to go on Google image search. So, like another commenter told me, I just take screen caps from the episodes you've seen. So I'm definitely gonna do that in the future. I was trying to do a quick shortcut, but it definitely backfired on me there. But I won't even try to think any more about it because I don't want whatever the spoiler is necessarily. Humongous Bone says, "Do you have any predictions for season 3?" Well, yeah, let me get into that a little bit. I already mentioned definitely think that the what is it, Malachite is going to have to come back up. This cluster thing has to get resolved. I would assume that it'll get resolved in season 3, and it's not going to drag on another season of this being an issue. Like the Earth might explode or whatever. But even when talking about fusion a lot, because it's one of the main storylines here, that was the whole thing with the cluster too. It's these kind of forced together fusions, so that like it adds a whole nother level to how fusions are part of the show or different relationships. Um, and it was kind of emblematic of the problems that Garnet had with Pearl when they were in having their beef or whatever this season, because it's like a consent issue type of thing for Garnet, and so that she was really like horrified that all these gems are being forced together. That's why then she felt betrayed by Pearl partially, I guess. Um, Let me see though. But for predictions further on to the season, um, I think Connie's gonna have to save Steven at some point. I mean, they seem to be foreshadowing that a lot. Maybe there's gonna be something where there's also issues with her parents that they're coming to somewhat of an understanding, her and her mom and stuff. But I could see a scenario where something dangerous happens again and her parents try to take her away or something like that, and then that could leave Steven in trouble in some way. I don't know. I don't know about them romantically going down the line. It seems to be pushing maybe that way a little bit too, but there is the whole issue of like how they're aging and things like that, or how Steven's not aging as much. And that's gonna be a complicated relationship too. If she is kind of like his right hand man, friend, and all that too. But I see something going that direction. I think we're gonna learn more. I mean, I assume we're gonna learn more about Rose Quartz, so maybe we'll get another flashback episode or two dealing with that. It seems like Peridot's part of the crew now. You know, she turned her back on Yellow Diamond. I assume Yellow Diamond's going to based on this, send more people down to Earth. Maybe she'll come herself. I don't know if she would at this point. I mean, we saw in the flashback that Blue Diamond was down on Earth, so it's not unprecedented for the top people to maybe make an appearance. And I don't know if we're ever going to go to Homeworld. Maybe not in season 3. I think we'll probably go there eventually. That I'm getting the sense, but for season 3 specifically, I think the cluster thing is going to be wrapped up. I think we're going to get the emergence of Lapis and Jasper again in some type of fight. I think that, I mean, when we're getting to the individual Garnet, Pearl, and Amethyst, the 3 other main characters, and Steven, I see their trajectories continuing. It's kind of like Amethyst gets more, becomes herself more, realize doesn't need to be like the clownish character all the time. It's her thing is a little similar to Steven's, like taking the responsibility, having thinking that she's good enough. That's a lot of her storyline as well, being taking a little leadership position that way. Pearl, I think, is going to continue to, especially now that we know what she was actually built for. I think she'll continue to kind of go against Homeworld, obviously, and kind of like build things and be the person that's maybe her storyline is going to be like, because even though I think it's good that Pearl isn't just being like a mindless drone like some of these other Pearls seem to be, I guess. She was still super reliant on Rose Quartz and still is to some extent, even though it's actually Steven and all that. So maybe she'll actually be even more of her own person. Try to emulate Rose Quartz in different ways other than being her protector and all that. And with Garnet, I'm not really sure. There's this whole concept of the future vision thing too, which it's not my favorite plot element here. I've been told by commenters that it's going to get explained more, but I still think this is a prediction I had after season 1, which didn't come true in season 2, even though there was one episode where Ruby and Sapphire were fighting with each other, obviously. I still think that that they're going to get separated again at some point, not because they're in a fight or something, but when they're separated, something's going to happen to one of them, and that's going to cause issues, and Garnet won't actually be able to be there for some episodes. Maybe that might happen. In terms of like the townspeople and all that, there wasn't as much of them in the back half of season 2, I think, but I assume we'll get some more one-off episodes like Sadie and Lars, something with them, Ronaldo, the Fry people, all that. So that's some of my predictions, even though I guess I didn't throw anything hyper specific out. But let me look back to the comments here. No spoilers. Boo. Did someone throw a spoiler on here? Oh, yeah. Careful there, Jeffrey emojis. That's something I could think of certainly, but yeah, I don't want that's a little too spoilery maybe. What do you want to see in season 3? That's similar predictions. I can get into that though. Thought I saw donuts or pizza. I mean that's a terrible Sophie's choice over there, Robert. A big fan of both, certainly. I guess if I had to choose one, I would have to. I like donuts a lot, but I can't live without my pizza. So I'll go pizza. Although I don't really want that. If I was going into the Steven universe, the verse itself, into Beach City, I might roll by the donut place first and chill with Lars and Sadie and get some delicious donuts before I'm going to join Grandma and get that fish pizza. That's a little strange though. Although I have had some good like clam pizza and stuff, so maybe I'll rethink that one. But I don't know, it's too tough. All right, tangent munch. Yes, I like to go on some tangents. I apologize, but not really. Any predictions and what do I want to see in season 3? Well, I guess what I want to see kind of ties into the things that I like about the show. So I want to see more of the things I like, which is I like the inter-character drama of I don't want to retread necessarily of the team breaking up again, like this season when, excuse me, Garnet and Pearl are mad at each other, but some element now that Peridot's in, she could still be this element. Maybe in another gem, something gets introduced. Something that's going to shake up the general vibe is what I like and want to see. I like the comedy, like I said. So I want to see some more good comedic moments, certainly, and that's where some of these side characters can come in as well. Like Greg, the father, also is one of my favorite characters. Also, the voice actor that portrays him is a comedian, a comedy person I like anyway. So, but I think he does a great job, and it's a well written, interesting character. I really like the moments we've seen a couple between Greg and Connie that are like humans stick together type of thing because they're both so tied into the gems now, but they're still humans, of course. Even though Connie kind of becomes somewhat of a gem when she fuses with Steven, I guess. But so I'd like to see more Connie's Greg interactions. That's something I want. I would like to see more flashbacks. Certainly, that's probably the most interesting thing I'm interested in the most from a plot perspective. I want to learn more about the homeworld culture. I want to learn more about Rose Quartz herself. I do think there's something big I'm predicting that yeah, pertaining to her that we don't know and Steven doesn't know yet, or maybe all the characters, or I don't know what. I've called her like a mad scientist type of person, but that she does seem like her interest in humans isn't just purely, or I think she's like interested in this in the first place. She was interested in the fusion, the Garnet fusion when I don't know, something's going on my phone there. The Garnet fusion when we first met that in the answer episode that I've been talking about a lot here. So on one hand, she seems pretty. What would the word be? I'm blanking on it here, but she seemed like I think her interest in a lot of these things is there. I could see something where she has some other agenda that we don't know about yet. I guess that's what I'll say. So more exposition, more conflict, and more laughs. Oh no, duplicitous wasn't the word I was looking for. I was thinking there's something opposite, actually, like magnanimous. I guess is one of the words I could be using, but she might have a secret agenda. So, yeah. Well, I don't know if I would categorize it as more exposition. I guess that is the case. When I'm looking for more background, but I mean, exposition is part of any show, I guess. So I would like it done like when it's done in things like flashbacks and little things like that's the better way than just like um Steven turns on like a videotape from Rose like and she just sits down and explains everything. No, I want to see the exposition done in more creative ways. Um who's my favorite gem? It is Pearl, I would say. I think I've already mentioned this on this cast or in the past. I like a lot of the humor that I'm talking about. Like Amethyst is very funny. Amethyst and Garnet can be very funny too. And the Amethyst voice actor does some very funny line readings, and so and the Amethyst voice actor does some very funny line readings, and so I definitely laughed. Like I laughed when she turned it into the hell. And I think like I mentioned already, Greg I think is very funny too. He's definitely up there as my favorite characters, even though the question was who's my favorite gem. Um, what do you think there is about the rest of the diamonds? Well, so yellow diamond seems of the diamonds we've actually met so far, it's blue diamond and yellow diamond. And we'd heard the latter for a while. We just met, or I just met, blue diamond in the flashback. There, we didn't get much from her. I said she reminded me of the Emperor from Star Wars with how she was dressed and all that. And I don't think we even actually saw her face. So I don't know about her, but with Yellow Diamond, it seemed like she's kind of the even how Peridot was describing her before we actually met her. She's kind of like the no nonsense type of person. It seems like just like bottom line ends justify the means. It's kind of the vibe I'm getting from her. Obviously, she wants Earth wiped off the map, but I don't know how much it actually means to her other than it's just the goal in front of her to have that Yellow Diamond still think she's on her side. Now I'm getting a thing that says my connection's unstable. That just went away. Hopefully there's no breakup here. All right. So, and then I'm assuming there's other two diamonds, like I've been saying, but who knows about them? I haven't met them or don't technically know they exist. Although I know there's more than those two. It seems like maybe there's more than four as well. But Jay Gill says, "Well, I consider you pretty brainy, witty." And I say the same for Pearl. Thank you for the compliment, J. Gill. And yeah, I guess that's possibly why I'm more attracted to a certain character, and not attracted from a physical sense, but you know what I mean. Where why one character speaks more to me than others. And I guess I didn't go completely into the Pearl backstory and why I find that more emotional, why I like that more, but I think part of it is um I mean I don't think, I guess it definitely is because of the rose quartz thing, how she's so entwined with one person, and then we're even finding out that um normal to their community or whatever family, whatever it is. I could see the Garnet definitely speaking to them more. With Amethyst, I could see someone that feels like I've called her like the sad clown type of thing before. Maybe someone that feels like they don't. I guess they don't. They put on one public face or with their friends or something, but really they feel like they're not good enough. Um, that's not me. I'm kind of egotistical, so that doesn't speak to me as much. Um, but I could see someone like that being attracted to Amethyst for that reason. And I don't know who would like. I don't talk about Steven as being my favorite character or anything, but he certainly anchors the whole show, obviously. And I don't know who he would speak to the most. He's in such a strange position. I mean, certainly someone that didn't never knew their mother. I could certainly see Steven being uh, Steven Universe, the character, rather than the show. That's his kind of struggle speaking to him, because he even technically is his mother. You could draw a parallel, I guess, to someone who doesn't know their mother, but people tell them that they're so much like her or something, because you are like your parents. Even a lot of times you are if you grow up with them, certainly how they act, but some of things are just genetic and all that. So um, and like I mentioned before, kind of mommy issues or mother issues was a huge thing this season. There was even 2 episodes back to back directly about that, which I thought that was a little strange. I don't know why they put the episodes right back to back with each other, but it was trying to force her to do certain things. So, and then even you get the shot of Steven, like how he doesn't even know his own mother in the Connie episode, all that. So that's certainly a theme that I think the show writers are pushing. Um, Parents issues in general, but specifically from the mother end, it seems like. And the show is very, even though Steven, the main character, is male, um, there's a ton of female characters on the show. I would say a higher proportion than average TV shows in general. And those, yeah, female characters are a huge thing on the show. It seems to be the case. So I guess it would make sense that kind of mother issues come up a lot. Who's texting me here? Let me toss that aside. Jay Gill's coming in hot with the comments here. Oh, well, they're all the same ones I looked at already. Okay, no, there's a new one. Who do you consider the leader for the crystal gems, and why? I'll grab some water here. I've been talking a lot. Um, I I think it seems like Garnet is the one they consider their leader now. Obviously, it was Rose Quartz that brought them all together, not there. Um, she seems to be probably the strongest, which makes sense because she's a permafusion. She's already 2 gems together in the first place, and she's got that future vision thing, which I still don't know exactly what's going on with it, and I don't know what the other gems consider it, like if that's like a big thing for them following her future vision, but it would seem to be Garnet. I do think that Steven is essentially been groomed to be the leader. That would make the most sense because he technically is Rose Quartz from everything we know, and he's got the human connection, all this stuff. He seems like a leader, and that's when I was talking about Rose Quartz before, that she has some other agenda. I think it's definitely tied into Steven in the first place, how she wants to put a human and or she wanted to put a human and gem together, whether it's just for experimental purposes or for something greater. Maybe it was to win the struggle against Homeworld, and then so Steven's going to be the leader in that. That would certainly make sense from a traditional storytelling scenario, the kind of the chosen one type of thing. I don't want them to hammer that too much because again, that is so stereotypical. But I could see that being the case. Might be a little bit of an English. Uh, what do you call it? I'm trying to figure out what the question means basically. I think what you're saying, Robert, is from the first episode to the last, what you know, how it started to now, what's surprised you or surprised me. Um, I will say I did. The reason I wanted to watch the show in the first place is I did saying that it dealt with certain, or it is good for older people as well. Like it's gonna deal with certain, not specific topics, but I figured it was going to bring the emotions and all that, and this kind of dramatic storylines. Um, the fusions that I've been talking about for the most part, this whole recap here, definitely like the Stevani thing surprised me a lot. That was from season one, but if you're talking about the whole